This is an overview of the Dremel tool. What I have laid out are the various bits that go along with the Dremel tool. To the far left, we have our sanding bits. These are very similar to the spindles from the spindle sander. They are a cylinder, and wrapped around that cylinder is rough sandpaper. This is typically what you're going to use for wood. What you can also use for wood, if you're doing really small and you don't need to do a lot of Dremel work, and you need to do anything that's really fine detail, we can use the engraving bits. The engraving bits are all metal, and at the very end they're rough, and depending on what application you're using them for, they have various types of shapes at the end. We have a very pointed or conical shape on this one, and this is a spherical shape at the end here. You can use these for wood, but they do take a very, very long time. So if you're doing anything that has a lot of work to do, I don't recommend using these. You typically want to use the sanding bits for most wood applications, and then any type of really fine detail we can do with the engraving bits. What you really don't want to use for wood are the grinding bits. And these grinding bits look like stone. They're actually a manufactured stone material. They come in different shapes and sizes, as you can see here. They don't really work well with wood. They will sand down the wood, but it does take a lot of time to use them because they would be a very, very fine type of sanding, and they gum up the material very quickly. So using these, you typically end up burning through the wood, and you usually end up, you can see on this one, it will actually melt the material a little bit, and if you do burn the wood, it will gum up the actual bit, and you can see this one has been damaged a little bit because it was used on wood. So not the best application for those bits. In addition, we have a cutting wheel, and this is great for cutting things like metal dowels. It does cause a lot of sparks, and depending on which side you use or which side you cut on will determine whether those sparks go up from the material or down to the floor, and that's important, and that's something we'll cover with the use of the Dremel. The last family of bits that we have are the polishing bits, and these have a very soft, almost foam-like material at the end that's used with a special type of polishing material that if you're doing anything with metal or plastic, we can put a really nice shine on it. This we almost never use because we don't have any applications for it. We certainly don't want to use it with wood, and we certainly don't want to use the cutting wheel with wood. And as we discussed, the grinders are not great applications for wood. So the only two that we can really use for wood would be the far left two types of bits, and really this type of bit is typically what we're going to use on wood. The Dremel itself is much like a drill. So at the very end, it has what's called a collet, and that collet is where the actual bit would go. And if we look inside of it, it's got the jaws just like a drill or drill press. And just like the drill press has a chuck key, the Dremel actually has its own key. So the way we would insert a bit is we would hold down the brake. This metal disc is our brake, and we would loosen the collet or tighten the collet as needed. So if I loosen the collet here, I can slide in a bit and then tighten the collet and hand tighten it just like we would with the drill press, and then I would use the collet key just like the chuck key to give it one last little tighten. If I was going to remove it, I would first undo it with the collet key and then undo it by hand, and I can pull the bit out. That is an overview of the Dremel.